Welcome everyone to the newest installment of the Untitled Film Nerd Project. My name is Philip, and joining me as always is TJ.
Hello.
As you may have seen, we're calling this the beta version of the visual podcast, or Vizcast. What that means is, since this particular movie is still in theaters at the time of this recording, the only media we could grab footage from would be the movie's trailer. And rather than stretch 2 minutes worth of content over the entirety of the episode, we opted to do a more streamlined version of the show, modeled after the style we'll be using for this year's 31 Days of Horror in October. So with that, let's get started. And for this episode, we watched Hereditary. Before we get into it, spoiler warning now. If you want to avoid spoilers, skip ahead to the time code you see on the screen. Let's get into cast and crew rundown. TJ is going to be nice enough to handle that for us this week, since I literally just got out of the movies from seeing this and drove home. So he was nice enough to do that while I was driving home. So go ahead.
All right. Well, this is directed by Ari Aster.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only done 2 shorts, and that's it.
Wow.
So huge kudos on that. Then we have Toni Collette.
Yes.
Who really doesn't need any introduction.
Not at all. I've loved her for years.
But I guess as far as genre films, 2 noticeable ones was she was the mom in Krampus.
Mm-hmm.
And she was also the mom in the Fright Night remake.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So she's pretty good at playing the mom. The dad, Steve, was Gabriel Byrne, another one that doesn't need any introduction.
Oh, absolutely not.
But just in case, he was from Usual Suspects and End of Days, just to name 2 out of his huge list.
Many. Yeah.
Then we have the son, Peter, played by Alex Wolff.
Mm-hmm.
He has quite a long list, but nothing huge yet. Like, this is probably going to be his biggest movie.
Okay.
But just to name a few, he's in a Netflix movie called Dude.
Okay.
He's in the new Jumanji.
Oh, okay.
Something called Patriots Day, and he has an uncredited role in Thoroughbreds. He was a party goer.
Oh, okay. I was like, I paused.
Yeah. Then we have Charlie, played by Millie Shapiro, and this is her first film role.
Okay.
Only other thing that she's done besides this is that she's done Broadway's version of Matilda.
Okay.
And then only other name worth mentioning is Joan, who's played by Ann Dowd.
Right.
And huge list of movies that she's done, but just to name a couple, Handmaid's Tale, it's a series on HBO, and a movie called Compliance, which...
Oh, okay, yeah.
I have no desire to say that.
It's been on my radar for a while, but I never got around to it.
Super uncomfortable looking film.
Yeah, definitely.
But that is your cast and crew.
Awesome. Thank you very much, sir. With cast and crew done, well, I want to touch on a couple things with cast and crew. Being that we're both a little older than a lot of other people, I don't know what you first saw Toni Collette in, but I saw her way back in 1994 in Muriel's Wedding, and I've been a fan of hers ever since. So to see her rise through Hollywood has been really gratifying. And the entire time I was watching, I'm like, okay, Peter looks very similar to Light Turner from the Death Note movie. It was bugging me. Turns out they're brothers.
Oh, wow.
And I guess they were both on that Naked Brothers band thing. So yeah, they're brothers. And I was like, he looks a lot like Nat Wolff. And then I was like, wait a minute. And that's all. And then when I was looking up on the way home, I was just like browsing the cast because I knew the main people. And I saw his name was Alex Wolff. I'm like, okay, they have to be related. And then I checked when I got home, and yeah. So pretty cool. All right, so let's get into our initial thoughts. As said, I just saw this, so this is very much like I just got punched in the face, and it's very fresh. You've had about a week.
Yes.
Because I think you saw this opening weekend.
Yes.
So you've had a week to let it sit. I don't have traditional notes, but I do have some notes taken on my phone as we're driving home. I was just talking to myself into my phone because there's things I wanted to mention and talk about. I was reading some reviews on the Fandango app, Lots of negative reviews. I feel like this got negative reviews from the same people who gave Mother negative reviews.
Yes.
I think that if you need to be spoon-fed your plot, you're not going to like this movie. That's a lot of the negativity was, well, nothing happened and I don't get the ending. When in fact, a lot fucking happened.
Uh-huh.
And the ending...
So much happened.
Exactly. And the ending, as I said, just like punches you in the face.
Yes.
And then I sat there I went and saw with a friend and we're walking out and he asked me something. I was like, what? Because my mind was just like, like, okay, now I need to rethink the entire movie. Really wish I hadn't seen the whole Gabriel Byrne catches on fire scene on YouTube. Yes. That kind of pissed me off. So I knew that was coming, whether in a dream or in reality. I wasn't sure, of course. I'm still wrapping my mind around it. But short answer, it was, for his first film, holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, wow. I don't know whether my head hurts. Wonder if it's like compounded because I was so tense.
Yeah.
During the movie. Like, I got so lost in this, I legitimately forgot I was in the theater. I was so into the movie that it took a dude coughing behind me to like kind of like snap me into like back out into like, I kind of whooshed back out and I was like, oh God, I'm watching a screen. And this happened during the scene at like the last 5 minutes when Peter wakes up in his bed and is going downstairs and then finds his dad. That whole scene, I'm just like, woo, I'm like really invested. But you've had a week to let this soak, so I'm still kind of like shell-shocked. So,
well, first I'm going to talk about my theater experience with it.
Okay.
And I saw this with my friend Bram. The crowd that we saw it with, there's at least 4 people that were extremely noisy.
Ooh.
And I can only remember 4 times that they got noisy. But I actually think a great deal of it was just out of nervousness to break the tension. Because there was so much tension. As I told you, after I left the theater, I felt like I was coming down off a bad trip. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and like me and Bran talked about it afterwards, and like I told him, because I very much got the feel that the crowd that we saw it with didn't enjoy it that much, and it's like, I very much felt like we were reading on a 12th grade level while the rest of the class was reading 3rd grade.
Yes, yep. Which goes back to what I was saying about people need their movies spoon-fed.
Yes.
And if they're, so that's a really good way to put it. This was not opening weekend, so there was, when we first walked in, there was one other person. And I was like, yes, I don't like being in a box with other people. And it filled up a little bit. There was maybe 20 people, 20 to 40 people. And it was quiet the entire time.
Nice.
Other than that dude coughing that one time. I mean, there was like little chatter at the beginning, but it got silent. Everyone was super invested in some way, good or bad. It ended. I got up to stretch, and no one was getting up. We're all just kind of sitting there with various looks of like, what the fuck on their face. And there's only been a couple other movies that I've had that happen with. I saw The Mist in theaters, and that was just a punch in the gut. Yeah, no one got up. I've told my story about the original Blair Witch. Me seeing that when I'm still being shopped around, and we had a chance to see it before it was ever released nationwide. That ended and no one moved. And then I saw the Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Oh, nice.
In the theaters. And sorry for the train, we're going to talk through it. And that's the only movie I've ever seen where it ended, and there was about 10 of us gathered outside the movie, and we're having a discussion about what we saw. I would love to have done that with this movie. But, it was like after midnight, people were going home.
Yeah.
So,
and they had a lot to think about.
Yeah, if they were reading on a 12th grade level, yes. If they were reading on that 3rd grade level, they were just like, that was stupid, nothing happened, I'm bored, that ended made no sense. Well, let's go see the newest Melissa McCarthy movie.
Now, one thing I will say in the positive, despite all the negative reviews and stuff, this coming out from A24, going by A24's previous track record, I don't think they give a shit about good reviews or negative reviews. They're just interested in telling a story and releasing it.
Yeah, because this is actually the fourth movie to get a wide release by them. First was The Witch, something called Free Fire, and then It Comes at Night. I've heard mixed things about The Witch. I've heard mixed things about It Comes at Night, and it's awesome to see like a studio that just does, as you said, doesn't give a fuck. They don't give a shit, and that's refreshing, especially in the era of Weinstein, neutering awesome movies for decades. A studio that's like, hey, you know what? Make your movie, and just make your movie. It doesn't need to be happy ending. It doesn't need to be. Just make your movie. That's awesome. All right, so I'm still like a little shell shocked. The breakdowns are going to be a little rough for me because it's still very new. But let's go ahead and get into them. We're going to do the breakdowns now. What was your favorite scene?
It was in the third act.
Okay.
And it was that moment right after Annie was possessed. And the movie, did a complete 360 going from drama to horror.
Right, yes.
And you see her float out of the room in the background. That was just so subtle.
Yeah.
So fucking creepy.
Yeah.
And yeah, that definitely has to go down as my favorite.
Awesome. I don't know. It was such a strong movie overall that it's difficult for me to pick a favorite scene. There's a lot of moments I liked a lot.
Now, another scene that I liked a lot was right after Charlie had been decapitated. And we see it from Peter just sitting there.
Yeah.
Terrified to look through the mirror.
Yes.
And that moment where the camera veers to the mirror and zooms back.
Yeah.
That's fantastic storytelling.
I guess it's gonna be a favorite moment, I guess, and what you just said is in there. When I was really sucked in, and I knew that the storytelling was actually pretty damn solid, was from the moment that Charlie starts having her attack because of the nuts. Gets in the car, he carries her out, which I thought was really cool, and decapitation happens. Then, as you said, he sits there. Then he just drives home and goes to bed. And then it goes to the next morning when Annie finds the body. And we didn't know at the time what exactly happened.
Yeah,
we knew she was dead, but we didn't know exactly what happened. And I think it was just that entire, like, he didn't wake his parents up. He didn't, just like you said, his reaction to Tony Collette, Annie finding the body was just, nothing happened, but it was such strong storytelling
and very impactful.
It was like they told so much without saying a word, and his reaction sold it. And yeah, so I probably have to say that's my favorite sequence. Is going to be my favorite scene. But there was so much good stuff that was like the fish hook.
Yes,
that told you were in for something very interesting. So that sticks out.
You just brought up that, because one of the things I'm always hearing is how fantastic Toni Collette's acting was in this.
Oh, yeah.
And how she deserves an Oscar, and I 100% agree with that. However, I think a lot of people are overlooking Alex Wolff's acting.
Yes. Yeah. By the time we get to the scene where he just is almost full-on possessed in the classroom, I was like, damn, dude. I was on board, but then that was just...
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just remember that scene where the possessed Annie is chasing after him, and he's locked up in the attic, and she's trying to get in, and he's just going, "Mommy,
yeah,
stop."
And then she's on the fucking ceiling banging her head. Like, oh my God, like, that's so cool.
Yes.
Like, there's so many just cool things, and what this movie did with exposition was really well done. Because we're finding out as everyone else is. So instead of being like, Mom's in a cult, and here's what's going on. Here's what the cult. We learned as the movie went along, which I think is why people didn't like it, because they had to actually think and they were being taught. And when it gets to the end, you're like, oh shit, okay, all right, pause, pause, rewind, and everyone did a great job. Charlie was cast perfectly for being what her character was supposed to be. Kudos.
Yes.
But yeah, Alex Wolff gave a more understated performance that I think gets overlooked because Toni Collette was so emotionally invested.
Yeah.
And as she always is, because she's a phenomenal actress. But yeah, I totally agree. I think that Alex Wolff does not need to be overlooked in this role because it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We might agree on this one, but there was quite a bit to choose from. Holy shit moment.
Mine has to be, you had already mentioned it, that moment where she's on the ceiling.
Okay, right on.
Slamming her head against just how quickly it was happening and how violently it was happening.
That's a runner-up for me.
Mm-hmm.
Another runner-up is her cutting off her own head.
Yes.
While being like suspended in the air. The last 5 minutes are just so full of so much.
Yeah.
and then it just shows you how much was going on during the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
We're watching Grandma's chess game. And it's a chess game you can't win.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked more about that in the notes I have on my phone. My holy shit moment is very cliche. It's not the decapitation, it's when they showed the head.
Oh, yeah.
I gasped because I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting them to show the fucking decapitated head with all the ants on it. That's when I was like, holy shit, okay. When it showed us that, it showed me that this movie had balls. And
yes.
I was very, very intrigued where they were going to go with this.
Yeah.
So it's very cliche because it came out of nowhere. And I wasn't expecting it. And it was like, okay, you're strapped in now. The scene that I referenced as my favorite moment kind of puts you into the roller coaster and takes you up the hill. And then the decapitated head, when they showed it, just you're over the hill and you're going down.
And again, it goes into what you were talking about with the storytelling, because we know ever since the accident, normally it'd be building to what the mother's reaction would be.
Yeah.
But we didn't see the mother's reaction. We only heard it. Mm-hmm. And then we see the aftermath of the accident by showing us the decapitated head.
And you're so just kind of sucked in by Toni Collette's wailing. And then it's like, boom, kick to the balls.
Yeah. You're not emotionally prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, see.
Oh my God, I'm empathizing with Annie. And then, oh my God. And then we realize what happened. Then you think back to what Peter's reaction was, which was like my favorite moment. And just how numb he was, and it just all makes sense. And that this movie does that a lot. Something will happen, and you have to rethink what you just saw. And then the end happens, you have to rethink everything you saw. Mm-hmm. People didn't like it. Like I said, your analogy is perfect. There's so much here, and it's a lot smarter than people are giving it credit for. Mm-hmm. And for a first-time feature-length director, and who wrote it, as far as I know, wow. Just wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit moment number 4 or 5 or 10. I don't know. There's a lot. When Annie's banging on Joan's door and the camera pans back and you see that the fucking like crazy triangle carved into her table that was carved into the floor at their house and Peter's pictures in it. I was like, oh shit. That's when I knew he was fucked. Mm-hmm. All right. If any, mediocre moment.
This one's going to be a little bit harder for me because it's been a week.
Yeah.
I guess maybe a couple of the scenes in the support group, or maybe the entire art gallery.
Yeah.
Hounding her, but again, it's been a week, so.
I was thinking the support group too, but that made sense as far as a plot point. And it was an important plot point.
And exposition with giving us more into what type of character Annie was.
And also introducing, what was it, Joan? Mm-hmm. So it served a purpose.
Yes.
Usually I don't like when they do like the high school party thing, but that served a purpose. Mm-hmm. The gallery hounding her served a purpose. It facilitated Annie's breakdown. Mm-hmm. Wasn't the reason, but it kind of pushed her over the edge. I don't have one. I'm going to say straight up, I don't have one. I might have one in a week, since you've had a week to let it marinate. Mm-hmm. I haven't, so I'm still swimming in it. And I don't have one. So one of the first times ever, I don't have a mediocre moment. Everything that could be seen as mediocre to me served a purpose. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the whole Joan seance thing with Annie at first, but then once the exposition was given to us, oh, okay, that served a purpose.
Yep.
A very important purpose. Yeah, I don't have a mediocre moment, so if any, LOL moment.
I can't think of any.
Yeah. Like there's not one.
This was not a movie high on laughs.
Even if movies don't have laughs in them, there might be something that happens that's like,
Mm-hmm.
aha. But yeah, this was purposefully dark and heavy.
Yes.
And I guess maybe the awkwardness of Peter and that girl he liked.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't funny. But I think that's the only moment of levity in the movie, really, to me,
Mm-hmm.
was that he had a crush on this girl that was indifferent, it seemed. So, or her reaction to when he was like, "Hey, I got some really good weed,"
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Man, come invite me to your party," because. All right, so that's the breakdowns. We can continue talking about it, or go to my little bit of my notes, whatever was I could think of on the way home.
Let's go ahead and touch upon the notes.
All right. As I mentioned earlier, this was Grandma's chess game.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was... They were not winning. She was queen of whatever the fuck cult they were in.
She'd been planning this
for... a long
yeah.
time. I do wonder if... She said her brother, Andy's brother, hung himself.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that was her first attempt to summon Paimon.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than that happening, he just killed himself.
It's a good possibility.
And I also like the kind of misdirection almost, because Annie said that her brother said that their mom put people inside of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we saw those like naked people in the shadows, I was like, oh shit. I thought that they were going to like beam John Malkovich into him. But yeah, complete misdirection with what happened at the end.
Mm-hmm.
On my end, because I thought for sure that these were the people that were going to take over his body. Another way that it looks like a giant chess game, it looks like Charlie's death was predetermined.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fucking symbol of the cult was on that telephone pole.
Yep.
It also makes you wonder, since Annie obviously grew up with having this person as a mom, what did she do to her?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, everyone thinks that she's crazy, and they said the mother had DID, which clearly she didn't. But it makes you wonder, like, how far ahead did Grandma program?
Yes.
Like she has this power because she made Annie have Peter,
Mm-hmm.
I think this was knowing that this was her chance to get a vessel for Paimon, since her first attempt failed. And I think that subconsciously, the reason she didn't want to have kids is because she knew.
Yes.
One thing that kind of hit me in the face on the way home, and this is why this movie is such a good example of storytelling. If you think about it, you have to think. The mom sleepwalking is seen as her trying to harm her kids.
Mm-hmm.
No. She tried to light her children on fire to save them.
Yep.
I think that when she was awake and conscious, her mom's version was in control. Whatever was being programmed into her was playing out. But when you're asleep, your subconscious takes over. So whatever control the grandmother, her mom, had would be let go. So I think that her sleepwalking was actually her trying to fight back.
Yep.
Against what was going on, because I think that her subconscious knew that her conscience had already been compromised.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Annie even says to Peter, I wasn't trying to kill you, I was trying to save you. Charlie is clearly, in my opinion, Paimon.
Yes.
And I think subconsciously Annie knows that. And I think that subconsciously Annie knows that her mother wanted to get Paimon into Peter, since the king prefers a male vessel. And I think that the fact that they took something that looked like very crazy, neglectful parenting was actually her trying to save her fucking children from the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way she could do that was by sleepwalking. Her subconscious body made itself do that to fight back. And I think that is so fucking smart. I wonder how many of those third grade level people did not pick up on that.
Yeah. And to go along with what you're saying, like how you had mentioned that Charlie was Paimon.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that, because I think she very much influenced her own death. That the classroom scene where she's making her figure and the teacher comes up, distracts her and tells her to stop. That's the moment that the bird slams against the window.
Right.
So I think that's first sign of her power.
Okay, yeah.
But she doesn't have that much control over it being in that body.
Right.
And then she goes outside, finds the bird, and then cuts the head off.
Mm-hmm.
Which shortly afterwards, she gets decapitated.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I saw that as foreshadowing as well.
And then also with the moment that the mom suggested that he take Charlie to the party. That seemed like a very odd decision and a very thing.
Yeah.
But if it's all part of Pyman's
Uh-huh.
power and influence, it makes sense.
I think that's all Grandma's influence.
Mm-hmm.
I think Grandma programmed everything because Grandma put Pyman into Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why Charlie is so kind of odd, because Charlie is a walking demon, Hell King, in another vessel, but that's all that Charlie knows.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever part of Charlie is Charlie, just accepts that her life is. It's like when people grow up in a certain crappy situation and you're a kid, that's all you know.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's abusive, what have you, that's all you know about what your life is. So I think she stuck out and was odd because she was odd in the fact that she wasn't really a person.
Mm-hmm.
She was this entity from birth, waiting to be released.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And then another thing that made me wonder how much was programmed into Annie was it happened during the seance, and it happened later on at the end when Annie's head would kind of like jerk back.
Mm-hmm.
She like snap her head back slightly. At first I thought it was just her being possessed during the seance, but then it happened again at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is her mom. Almost like if somebody has like a trigger word.
Yeah.
You hear those stories like people, like spies who have like a trigger word, but it's buried in their subconscious when they hear the word.
Yeah, sleeper agent.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever word they hear, then it activates their mission. I think that was kind of what this was. I think that Joan was there to do that on the grandmother's behalf. There's a lot more going on here. And people realize. I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. There's that fine line between mental illness and the occult.
Yes.
And just the confusion between the two, because you had the polar opposites of Annie, who was like, something is wrong, and Gabriel Byrne is like, you're fucking crazy, we need to take you to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And those two just butting heads. And I liked when we got the exposition from Annie at the meeting about her family.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, I think of this whole movie as a chess game from Annie's mom. Did Annie's mom position her to go to that meeting so then she would meet Joan?
Yeah.
I think she slides that seance thing into the mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't work, so she has to actually go directly to and approach Annie. Maybe lie about her own children dying.
Mm-hmm.
So she can get her hooks into her to fulfill the prophecy, because she needed Annie to say these words that she shouldn't have fucking said. And you would think, this is possibly maybe a little mediocre moment, but not in a bad way. You would think, this is just from a character standpoint, you would think if your house had fucking like weird ass Hebrew, Latin writing on the walls, maybe don't do a seance there.
Mm-hmm.
If mom is like a demonic queen cultist, don't do a seance where she fucking was at. Don't, like, if you see a crazy triangle on your floor, which I'm assuming it was right underneath where Annie found her mom in the attic, an invocation thing, maybe no. If you grew up with a crazy cult demon mom, maybe don't do the seance that random lady who has the same mat that your mother made. Red flag.
Yes.
I mean, so, but it's not like so much mediocre. So like, come on, Annie.
Mm-hmm.
But if she's being mind controlled and is a chess piece since probably birth, then she has no choice. So
Yes.
I can't say it's mediocre because if you don't have any choice, you don't have any choice.
Mm-hmm.
I just put great casting all around. I thought everyone did a phenomenal job, and we touched on it earlier with the performances by Alex Wolff and Toni Collette, and even Gabriel Byrne going from supportive husband to just being at his wit's end with her.
Mm-hmm.
I loved when it ended. What kind of stuck out to me was the duality of what this movie meant. What I mean by that is, for the Grahams, I think that was the name of the family.
Mm-hmm.
For their family, this was an absolute tragedy. But for the cult, this was a happy ending.
Yeah.
I love that this was both a happy ending and a tragedy at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you see Pyman being invoked into Peter and his one eye changes to blue, I was like, okay, they won.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kind of hit me. I was like, there was nothing they could do to stop it.
Nope.
That is awesome. So those are all for my notes.
A couple things I wanted to touch upon that I remember.
Okay.
One of the other things that I liked was the filming and cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
How constantly the outside shots and sometimes the inside shots were shot and done in a way that you weren't quite sure if you were seeing the outside of the house or if you were seeing one of Annie's dioramas.
Yeah, cause that's how the movie opened.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting.
And that happened several times through. And I also remember just before the third act when it goes from day to night and you see all those people surrounding the house. I love that shot too.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing was the music.
Oh, yeah. It was really good.
Where it was just sounds like an animal screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Or just weird, random, odd shit. And you come to realize, like, that's not random. That's the score.
What was so good about that? It flowed with the movie seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was aware that I was hearing the score, but I was so into what I was watching. That it complemented what I was seeing so well. So in those movies that we've talked about where it doesn't fit and it kind of takes us out of the movie for a second, this did a really good job of not doing that.
Yes. And also with the sound design, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my friend Frank telling me about when he went and saw it, how the sounds were coming out of the speakers. You couldn't quite tell if it was coming from the movie or if the person next to you was making that sound.
I picked up on that with the flies.
Mm-hmm.
It sounded like there was flies in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they did with the sound was really good.
Yes.
Because it legitimately sounded like there were flies buzzing around us in the theater. So yeah, I picked up on that there. But this is one of those where it's definitely going to warrant a second watch.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked before about doing a revisited series where we revisit a movie that we've already seen.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be high on the list to do that with.
Yeah, especially if they include as many deleted scenes as what were apparently filmed.
Which is crazy because the movie's like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we get like a director's cut, we are definitely revisiting this movie.
Uh-huh.
I would be all about a director's cut of this movie.
And this is one movie that's definitely on my to-buy list.
It is, but I really, really, really want a director's cut.
Yes, yes.
Since you teased me with it. Because you mentioned it before I even saw it. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And then after I've seen it, I'm like, yes, please, yes, 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 please, 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 yes. Please. Anything else you want to add? Or you want to go to final thoughts?
Final thoughts is good.
Let's go to final thoughts. So since you've seen this a week ago, you've had more time to let it marinate. Like I said, let it set. Go ahead and give us your final thoughts.
My final thoughts is just fantastic movie. Fantastic job to Ari Aster for giving us such top quality with your very first movie.
Yeah.
Highly looking forward to seeing what else is coming. Kudos to A24 for throwing out more, again, top quality, and not even giving a shit about anything more than just telling a story.
Yes. Yes.
And then again, Toni Collette and Alex Wolff. You guys deserve awards. And yeah, loved the shit out of this one.
My final thoughts are, if you are a horror fan, go see it. But if you need your movies spoon-fed to you, if you need to see movies at a third grade level, you're not going to like it.
No.
If you're someone that didn't like Mother, you're not going to like it. It's not the same kind of movie, but it has the same kind of unease and intensity. Like, it doesn't ever get as intense as Mother, which got really, really, really intense. But just the feeling of, like, what the hell is going on is right up there. If you didn't like it, this is another one. Like Mother, I said, I guess I can respect it, but I don't get it. Because this movie had so much going for it. And it was a lot smarter than the negative reviews are giving it credit for.
Yep.
Like, we sat now and just talked about what things mean or could mean or what was going on the whole time, because this movie has the whole time. When it gets to the end, we're like, oh my god, this has been going on probably for decades. This has been in the making by Annie's mom for decades. Holy shit, that's It's impressive. And to pull it off with letting the audience know as it unfolds in the movie, we're not given everything, to let it unfold to that shocking end, which I didn't see coming. I thought he was just going to be possessed by all the scary naked people. He ended up being like this vessel, and it was great. And I'm glad I watched it. I would definitely recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that takes care of our final thoughts. But before we go, as it pertains to Hereditary, what did we learn?
You go first.
All right, if there are naked men smiling at you from the shadows, run out, not up. Run out. Outside. Run. Don't go to the fucking attic. What did we learn in horror movies? Don't run upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Go out the fucking door. Awesome shot, though, of Tony Collette being in the fucking, like, corner as when he finds the dad's body.
And again, just like when she floats off, it's like,
yeah.
Oh, that scene reminded me very much of the very first time I saw the scene of the woman crawling on the ceiling in Exorcist 3.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I learned that sometimes the creepy kid isn't just creepy. Sometimes she's possessed by a god.
Yeah, so be nice.
Yes.
To the weird people. Because you never know if they're like a king of hell.
Yes.
All right. Spoilers are done. Come back now to hear the outro. Well, that wraps up this episode. Thank you for listening. Tell us what you thought of Hereditary in the comments below. Did you love it as much as we did? Or are you one of those who we said read on a 3rd grade level? No, without being mean sounding. If you didn't like the movie, why?
Yes.
Because I thought it was great, and there was little to nothing in this movie that I actually hated. So I'm very interested to hear someone else's take from the other side of the coin. If you like the video, please hit the like button. Share it with your friends or cool people who might dig the podcast. And please subscribe to the channel, including hitting that notification bell to stay up to date on the newest content. And speaking of, our next episode will be on the movie Before I Wake. A movie that's been on our radar for a while, and one we're going to finally cross off the list of movies we need to see. So until then, once again, my name is Philip.
And I'm TJ.
And we will be back next week to talk about Ex Machina. Goodbye.
Bye.